Welcome to AM Best Audio.
I'm John Weber for AM Best TV, and we're at the Verisk Insurance Conference in Orlando. I'm speaking today with Lee Shavel. Lee's the CEO of Verisk, and Lee, pleasure to see you again.
John, it's great to see you again, and really delighted to have you guys here.
First and foremost, looks like it's shaping up to be a great conference again.
It does. I mean, we can hear the people kind of registering, so I think the din of the crowd is beginning to grow.
The theme of this year's conference, Experience the Possible. What does that mean to you, Lee?
Well, John, I thought I knew what it meant, but on my way down to Orlando today, I was in the plane, settling into my seat. I had my cup of coffee for the flight down, and my seatmate moved in and swung her bag around and knocked my full cup of coffee right into my lap. And so, as I was experiencing that, I have a keen sense for the ironic. I said, well, this was a possibility that I really wasn't keen to experience. So we're hoping that that's not what our attendees experience. But I do think that the theme means to us, as we are in an environment with a lot of technological change, there's naturally apprehension and some concern about what those changes mean. But there's a lot of research that shows that understanding and embracing that change is critical. One of my good friends and an expert, I think one of the best observers of the insurance industry, Bill Perroni from Accord, their organization just put out a survey for 2024 in which over half of the insurance industry that they interviewed identified leveraging technological change to rethink and improve and optimize their operations, whether in claims or underwriting, was the critical step necessary for competitive advantage. And so I think what we certainly view this conference as being is an opportunity for us to talk to clients about what we're doing in underwriting and claims based upon feedback that we've gotten from them to develop new solutions and experience what that possibility is for bringing a new solution to any of those functions. And we've quite specifically this year brought not just our underwriting experts, but also our extreme event modeling experts and our claims experts to provide a more comprehensive view of how we can tie those different insurance functions together, utilizing data and technology.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about that technological change in just a minute. But before I do, I know you talk to a lot of CEOs around the country, not just in the insurance industry, but in all facets of business. What are the challenges that they're telling you that they're seeing these days?
Yeah. So, John, I think as we spoke about last year, one of the things that I wanted to do in this role was to elevate our dialogue at the strategic levels of the insurance industry, as well as on the technological side. So you're right. I've had in the past year, in 2023, over 36 meetings with senior leaders and CEOs of our insurance company clients of all sizes, some of the largest, a lot of mid-size, some smaller players, as well as technology players in the area. I'll tell you that one thing that I hear repeatedly is a demand for more data and better data that allows them to make more precise decisions. Secondly, they want to know how we can help their colleagues in the insurance industry, regardless of function, manage more data effectively. And then the third thing that I hear probably most frequently is, how do we help build the ecosystem that allows the insurance industry, whether you're a carrier or a broker or a regulator or an adjuster, operate more efficiently and in more of a digital format? So just finding ways to improve the way the industry operates effectively is probably the third most common thing we talk about.
I want to just back up a little bit. You said they ask you, how can Verisk help them address those challenges? How can they help those colleagues? So how can they?
Yeah. So in each of those areas, for instance, on the data question, this has been something that we have been hearing for the past few years, that the need for more current information and more digestible information is something they would like us to see make progress on. So on that front, we've been investing millions of dollars. In fact, it'll probably be about $100 million that we invest over 5 years in what we refer to as our core lines reimagined business. The core lines business of forms, rules, and loss costs that the industry relies on for determining how to rate a policy, how to price it, and evaluate it, is our data sets that go back decades, but we are working on improving the ability of our clients to access that information, to integrate it into their own platforms, and to improve the currency of that data so that by the time we have normalized the data, it still has relevance to their underwriting decisions. In addressing the second question from an insight perspective, one of the things I commonly hear from senior executives and CEOs is, Lee, Verisk has so much information. We really would appreciate more insights from you on what does it mean. And so an example of that is we're going to be debuting our next generation extreme events model. And that is a demonstration of a lot of the work that we've done in capturing new data sets, evaluating the economic model that we use to determine what the potential costs of an extreme event like a severe convective storm or a hurricane, or probably more recently closer to home, earthquakes, which we experienced in the New York area for first time in my life. And so we're trying to share those insights more broadly with our clients as we've updated those data sets and some new analytical techniques. And then finally, on the ecosystem, probably the best example of what we're doing there is in our claims area. We have been building out the technology to accommodate the integration of more technology partners that may be providing aerial imagery or flood mitigation services, because many of our clients have said, look, if we know that their products are well integrated into the Xactware platform that we have used for a very long time and has a great reputation, it makes it a lot easier for our procurement and our technological team to get them through the process of making certain that they're comfortable using those products. So those are three examples of what we're trying to do to address each of those points.
Customize your data experience. BestLink now offers an interactive company dashboard that provides company-level intelligence in a fast, user-friendly interface featuring interactive tables, charts, and Sparkline performance histories. Customize the dashboard tiles to prioritize the insurer ratings, data, and analytics that best support your workflow. AM Best. Our insight, your advantage.
Let's get back to technology. Generative AI, you've heard of it?
More frequently than ever, yes.
More frequently than ever. What are your colleagues saying about it? What are you saying about it? What are the concerns? What are the possibilities?
So, I'll start with the easy one. The possibilities, it's just, hard to capture its potential in the sense of that there is so much data that these models are trained on, and their ability to see patterns and predict outcomes and interpret data in new ways. It's really extraordinarily exciting about its potential because it's different than a purely quantitative or analytical application of traditional artificial intelligence, which looks at the data and tries to apply basic human approaches of decision making. Here there's something creative about it. But in that, there is also an element of risk because, John, as I'm sure you can appreciate, insurance and underwriting is a precision process. And, generative AI in and of itself is probably not something that you're going to want to let loose on underwriting a policy because it's difficult to predict what outcome it may come up with for a given policy. But there are a lot of interesting applications that we're testing. One of which has been, and many of us have experienced on ChatGPT, if you say, well, looking at this article, what are the important points for me to take away from it? And it tends to do a good job of summarizing the main points. Well, we're applying those to medical files so that we can rely and use the generative AI to identify what's important about that and consolidate that information for a medical professional or a claims processor to focus on what really matters the most. We're also using it to look at an underwriting application in commercial property where we have a lot of data and it prioritizes what may be most important, what may be missing from that file that the AI has been trained to know is going to be important for that particular underwriter or for that firm. So those types of applications, which in a way are just managing data and interpreting data more effectively and helping the individual, the human colleague, do their job more effectively and spending less time sorting through a lot of disparate information sources.
Have you been surprised at how fast it seems to teach itself? I've just been amazed at that aspect.
I have been. And I think that the other thing that I'm surprised by, and I think it's the fact that individuals have been able to interact with it and ask questions of it. Something about that query process has contributed to, I think, a greater interest and comfort. You know, you look at some past technologies like blockchain. I think it was hard for individuals to relate to, well, what is this and how does it mean? But there is an immediacy to generative AI that I think has captured the imagination and has drawn people to it. But again, we have to be careful because the risks of misusing copyrights, potentially applying human biases to the data that they have, it needs to be managed in a controlled and ethical environment. We set forth years ago some ethical AI principles that are a starting point for us in how we're utilizing generative AI. We have a governance structure that looks at data use cases, evaluates, is it appropriate? Is there potential bias? How are we constantly testing that? So we have some standards for transparency, for integrity, for inclusivity, to make certain that we're getting a wide range of internal and external perspectives on what we're doing, and with a great degree of respect for privacy, and making certain that given the voracious appetite that these models have and the companies that are building these models, that we aren't compromising our respect for privacy and the data that it's consuming.
And Lee, you used a word a minute ago, creativity, in talking about AI, and I'm so glad you did, because I don't know about yourself, but it's really made me rethink what creativity is on the human element, watching the way AI has become so creative and where it's scraping the information from. Maybe that's all we're doing as well.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating philosophical point. And one element that I've run across is one of the concerns as they are running out of data for these models, printed text that they want to evaluate. They've begun to consider utilizing generative AI produced information or text as a means to train the models. And there's a concern, well, you are then beginning to limit creativity because it's a derivative product. I think the thing that is interesting about the creativity, and it's probably not fair to say that it's creativity in a human context, but its predictive ability to understand what may be appealing or what a human is looking for is in some ways probably the most powerful element of the technology, because if we're answering questions, it has a sense from past responses of what has been satisfying or not. I almost think the creativity aspect of it, may be a side effect. Its willingness to test new ideas or new propositions or new images or approaches to things, and that's, I think, part of the fun of it. As long as it doesn't have unintended and adverse consequences for the insurance industry, it'll be fascinating to see how this develops over the next couple of years.
I think that's everybody's concern, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I think there are a variety. Interestingly, I think the insurance industry has concerns that as this becomes adopted more readily by a variety of businesses, well, if you are relying on it, what is the company's or the business's liability if it misuses copyrighted material, or if it draws a conclusion that is clearly reflecting of human bias that may have existed in its core data set, or it hallucinates, which we know it has the potential to do. There are elements of liability and risk that the industry is still getting its arms around. We're here to talk about how it can help the insurance industry, but we also have to be mindful of this is a technological phenomenon that has broad and far-reaching consequences for businesses around the world.
It's going to be fascinating to see.
Yes, it will be.
Lee Shavel, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And again, great conference.
Super. My pleasure, John.
From the Verisk Insurance Conference in Orlando, I'm John Weber for AM Best TV.
Looking to get the full attention of the insurance industry? We have the platforms that will do just that. Whether it be AM Best TV, AM Best Audio, Best Review Magazine, or Best Day. Find out more by calling AM Best Advertising Sales at 908-439-2200, extension 5399, and have a great day.